Oh, it works. Well, we don't want that.
Based on oatmeal bowls, I don't want to go anyway.
Um,
And I used proper cleaning journal.
or-
Last week, was it?
I'd like to- Starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Starting with agenda item number 1, minutes of the regular meeting held March 23rd, 2020.
President Moran,
Here.
Director Adams,
Here.
Director Baskin,
Here.
Director Flynn,
Here.
Director Brown.
Now it's time for agenda item number 1, minutes of the regular meeting held March 23rd, 2023.
President, I have read through them. I believe they're accurate and make a motion to approve them as written.
My second motion, all in favor? Moving on to item number 2, committee reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had 2 committee meetings. The Business Park Committee met twice with the city of Santa Maria. The items discussed on that will be further discussed in closed session.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, general manager's report.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you,
Mr. President. Directors. I've been drinking from a fire hose for the last 2 weeks,
I know the feeling.
but it's been fantastic. We have a wonderful airport here, and I am very honored that you allowed me to come to work for you. We have, I'll just run down some of the things I've done in the last 2 weeks. Met with the airport drive issue, pre-con for the taxiway work that will start on April 19th. I've met with the city several times. We talked about customs. I've learned about the Simcoe issue, and we had a meeting about that. We met with Tartaglia. We went over larger ASIP and capital improvement program issues and getting that, bringing me up to date, and also getting our priorities straight and what we're going to do as far as our requests for federal funding or requesting local funding from yourself. Met on air service. We're going to have a meeting today about that. Harry and I next week will be attending the Allegiant conference in Las Vegas. So we'll be out most of the Monday through Thursday for that. And that's just some of it. Met about a grazing lease and water issues, met about water wells and easements. So it's been fun.
We also did a meet and greet with Central Push Debt Center. He got to meet Chris Kunkel. And then Dave gave him the tour, and then also reset Artcraft and maybe a few others. Dave, if you want to add on to that.
Gave me the grand
I
tour.
have them on board. And hope to do more of this.
Okay.
Awesome. Moving on to item number 4, manager of finance and administration report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've provided the demand register for your review and approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Item B is the budget deviation. All these items have been presented to the board in one way or another, either through checks on the demand register or through contracts. And we actually provided you with that kind of statement for the air show. So I have provided explanations for all those. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to help you. I'd be happy to answer them.
I've read through it and I'll make a motion we approve the deviation.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Moving on to item number 5, Mr. Council's report.
Thank you, President. We have approved Moreno. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, public session. Statements from the floor will be heard during public session. Requests to speak forms are provided for those wishing to address the board. After completing the form, please give it to the clerk. Requests requiring board action will be referred to staff and brought on the next appropriate agenda. Members of the public are cordially invited to speak on agenda items as they occur. Staff reports covering agenda items are available for review in the offices of the general manager on the Tuesday prior to each meeting. The board will establish a time limit for receipt of testimony, in this case, 3 minutes. The board reserves the right to establish further time limits, for receipt of testimony. Starting off with, Nicole.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Mitch McNulty. I represent PBJ Sons. We have one of the owner bills, 2989C. I just wanted to come here in person and apologize for the situation that's kind of come about with it. It's not intentional. TBJ, we sold our airplane. We've been looking for one. But TBJ is actually my dad, Mike McNulty, and his two partners. The TBJ comes from their father's first initials. So I don't know, they have 9 auto dealerships around, you may know.
Yeah.
Might know. So long story short, we had the airplane. I was the pilot, graduated from Embry-Riddle, got talked into going in the car business with my dad. So we were flying the airplane. Management roles changed. I was working at our Paso dealership. We had to let some people go. I filled those roles. It was hard to fly the airplane, so we just decided to sell it with the intention to buy another one. We went into negotiations on some. That was in the middle to end of 2019. We sold the plane in the beginning of 2019. And then that fell through because of insurance or something. And then COVID hit. So that kind of re-geared, I think, a lot of businesses, and we kind of put it on the back burner to find an airplane. Our mission's changed since then because a lot of stuff we were doing, going to auctions, Chevrolet, Toyota, Honda events. We didn't need a bigger airplane at the time. We're starting to see that come back now, so we're really looking again. But the intention was never to just have that hangar and not have anything in it. We want to be here. I learned to fly here. I grew up here. All my parents, all the partners grew up here. So that's kind of where we're at. I just want to come and apologize for the situation. So thank you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
When are you buying a plane?
We're looking right now. We just can't, we haven't been able to put one that makes sense to everybody. So we've been talking to multiple brokers and trying to find something. But nothing solid yet. The market's just been crazy and it just hasn't made sense for us yet.
There's a stipulation to keep it, you have to have a plane in there, isn't there? So that's where we're at,
Right.
and I'm sorry, I mean, that's where it's at.
Understood.
So when do you think you could put a plane in there?
As soon as we can find one, and that's all I can say is we're trying to find one, and then as soon as that can happen, we'll put it in there.
You're not looking for a big Boeing or?
No. We had a Bonanza. It wasn't fitting our mission for what we wanted to do. So we're looking to get something a little bit bigger. Then, like I said, COVID hit, so now we're back into a smaller airplane. So it's made it a little bit more sense now. One of the partners does have his license too, so maybe he can start planning. That matters to you. But so the search is broad. We're not so keen on a bigger.
I look forward to getting an airplane in there as soon as you can, and want to look at it and help.
Me too.
Okay.
Me too.
All right.
Thanks, thank you.
Here, I believe it's Kathleen.
I am actually with James, and we received a summons today that we're being sued. So I'd like James to speak first. And then I would really appreciate the opportunity to be back and allow him to speak, since I'm now on the list.
Okay, so I have 2 here for James, so I'll go ahead and give you 3, including you. So I'll go ahead and give you guys 9 minutes on the clock.
Okay, because it does, we've been with this airport since 2012. So there's a history, and we need to get the whole picture of the whole scenario, the whole thing, especially of our history. I think that would kind of influence, and we need some things to be put up.
Okay. Go ahead, James.
Unfortunately, I got a little surprised today in that I was served for this lawsuit for the airport versus myself, and Katie, and wife. For the hangar that we have, the small hangar that we have, and I just feel that I really am taken aback by this because, you know, I've always tried to be a very positive influence at this airport. By, you know, being the West Coast manager and bringing Jet here and bringing business here and trying to be a very big proponent of developing this airport to the best of my ability. And, you know, I was just trying to help out another business on this property when I made the hangar available for a couple of months. And at the same time, asked if there was a possibility to sublease that hangar, which I've given a definite no on that. And by that time, the offending airplane had been taken out of the hangar already. And my airplane was already back in the hangar, which is registered and is airworthy and met all the criteria that the airport district requires to meet the terms of the lease. So at the time, I was given notice and had physical notice that I was in compliance. The notice said I had 3 days to comply or to quit. I was already in compliance. I called the interim general manager and let her know that I was in compliance. She wanted, I invited her to come over to see my airplane in the hangar. She refused. And then she said something to the effect that I was trying to make money off of the hangar, some mention of $400, which was purely false. I never tried to make a profit or anything off of that hangar. I was not out to make money on that hangar. I was just trying to defray the cost of the lease and the taxes broken down on a monthly basis. I think that's roughly $250 a month from those 2 months that was occupied by another. Now, maybe I was in a little bit of a violation of and I would say that I stood corrected and I corrected that situation, and I would ask that the board really take a look at this and consider dropping this case, as well as the fact that, from my understanding, and I'm not an expert on the law by any means, and the protocols of how boards work and how that works with an airport district, but there may be a legality problem here in that, from my understanding, there was no vote on this by the board to make this an actionable item. And if that's the case, maybe there's a possible violation of the law here. I'm not sure if it's the Brown Act or some other act, but there may be some legality problems with this lawsuit. I'm not sure, but please ask that you take a hard look at that, because I don't really want to get into a contest with the airport. I'd rather be a very proactive participant at this airport. I'd like to maintain that hangar and stay in good standing with the airport on the way I operate out of that with my airplane in there. And just food for thought in that regard. And then on the other side, I have this slip in there, which lends to community, positive community get together thing. A couple of the other tenants want to have a barbecue. And I just they asked me to see if it would be okay to have a barbecue at a hangar, and if there were to be any consumption of beer or anything like that, if that's going to be a problem. Because of, unfortunately, of the negative atmosphere that has now transformed at this airport over the last couple of months, everybody's on edge and nobody wants to violate any rules or regulations. So they've asked me to speak on their behalf.
Do you walk into this building here and talk to them about what you're saying?
As far as the barbecue,
That,
I just found out about the barbecue today, so I
prior
thought I'd bring it up.
to that, I'm good with it, and I didn't see it, but prior to that, have you walked in and spoke with Ms. Fenn?
I made a phone call to.
Have you come in physically to her office to look at her and talk to her about the issues that are out there, that you feel are out there? Have
That's
you
why
looked at her?
that's why I come to the board meetings to talk about this.
You come to the board meetings to sit and talk to us, but I would ask that you would go into her office and sit and
Well,
talk
over
to
the
her.
last, since 2012, We have talked to Ms. Benton on many occasions
Emails.
over the years, via phone call, and I believe my wife is coming in person too, maybe.
Very
And
good
talked to
communication.
Ms. Benton over the years about some minor issues. Katie will address those if you'd like. Between the two of us, because both of us are on the lease, we have done interaction with Ms. Benton on occasion, when necessary.
Very open communication, never an issue of non-compliance or non-response.
The last communication I had with Ms. Benton over the phone about the issue at hand was, to me, it was hostile from her direction to start with. So why would I want to come in and accelerate a hostile?
Body language plays a big role. I mean, you can't see the person on the phone and you're looking at them in the face. Maybe it's because the attention was diverted for a second and you interpret that as being different. So going in and seeing her face to face would help out a lot.
It might have been true. That's true. I didn't do that. I will readily admit that I did not do that.
But we were very proactive, sir, in our communication in these areas as far as being, if a notice was left on the hanger, if we received 3 notices at the house in our mail saying we were going to be evicted in 3 days, when he had already taken care of the issue. There was no other communication or phone call from Ms. Benton or the office itself. We as tenants have always right away, if there was oil on the hanger floor, Jim cleaned it up. If there was any other issue of any sort of, taking care of the hanger or helping other neighbors out, Johnny on the spot did it. We come from a military background. We never just throw things in the trash. We don't take our time in, responding to things. If it's there, if we receive a notice, if we receive communication, I spoke with Ms. Benton. I said, if there's ever an issue with the hanger and he's not available, call me, text me, email me. And his second in command, he works his butt off. He's not retired.
Especially when I'm flying in combat.
He's flying in combat. So I was second, and I never had a problem with Ms. Benton. She's like, hey, did you know that our rates are going up? Maybe you might have missed a little bit on the rates. It went up. She was really cool about working with me through COVID. Oh, his pay was cut in half. Sweet. And we've always been, we have been excellent tenants. So for us to be treated in a summons fashion without getting the whole companion, the whole story, you can't just lump everybody. I'm sure there's people that have abused intentionally or otherwise this airport. And I get that. We had a beautiful airstrip. Everybody was pumped up. We could sit in front of our little hangars that we love. That drew in business. We were happy. People were happy. The public was happy. They were able to walk by and see the planes and see all the cool people that own the hangars. And we shared with the public our hangars. So there's no hard feelings. It's not personal. It's how do we make this airport better? How do we make this group more cohesive? Work together as a family. Help people maybe paint their hangars, fix the roads that are outside.
I'm thinking more open communication, is what I'm thinking.
Should I
I'm thinking
suggest
going into
Exactly.
Ms. Benton
But we-
personally, so she doesn't have to go find people
Right.
and figure out where planes have gone to
It's
and who's renting what, where. It's difficult, and I
Like,
understand that. But kudos to Ms. Benton for going out there and figuring out who's what and where, who's on first.
that's fine, sir. I agree with you as far as saying.
But I don't want to lose you as a tenant, I'll tell you that right now, they don't
Yeah.
lose you as a tenant.
Here's the big picture also is pictures that were taken of the hangar during the course of all this. And all those pictures showed was an empty hangar. There was no aircraft in there because my aircraft was in for maintenance at the time. My airplane has been in and out of the hangar. Upgrading and down.
Well,
So, sometimes you can find the hangar that you can right now, I got the airplane half torn apart, so putting a new transponder in.
and again, it's
And
help
I'm not doing that in
this-
my hangar because my hangar doesn't lend well to doing that because the wind blows bad, and dust gets in there. So I'm doing it different. So it's, during that period of time that I had the airplane out of there for a long period of time, I was just looking to try to help somebody out that needed to put an airplane in a hangar. There was no intention on my part to do anything that was below board and or to make money on it. I have no intention of money on it. I don't even know where this figure of $400 came up. It's unsubstantiated.
And the other fact is, we even said to Ms. Benton and other people, come talk to us. This is such a waste of time. We all probably want to be doing something much better than sitting here and having attorneys and lawyers and everybody get involved, which costs the airport more money. We're trying to promote and keep people and keep business coming to this airport. If we can't figure out the management, we just went through management, but I understand a change. Things are trying to go in a good positive direction. We have good people here that have been hanging in here for many years who want to keep their planes, their whatever their situation is. And as we've been going along, we were told you can do these things. So it's going to take a while for these changes, sticking with the legal, understand their legal reasons, maybe liability. Totally get it. Totally have a right to expect certain quality, certain legal things to each hangar, certain rules and regulations. Perfectly understandable. Great. But to serve people with a summons without speaking to them and getting the whole picture is not acceptable. It is wrong. And it will just take away from what you all are trying to do here, which is get people together, help each other out, and for goodness sakes, put more money in this airport. And like I said, we've been here since 2012. We haven't given up. So there is no way we deserve it whatsoever.
Thank you so much. I got,
Please drop it.
Yeah.
Try to be a positive influence here again. Especially if the planes of fame comes here and like.
We want it to be school, especially meant for young.
We'll definitely,
Get them in, you
we'll
know.
definitely.
So, I mean, this has just been way too far ahead of the game, considering our history, please, sir.
Thank you.
We'll add it to the agenda.
President Moreno? Can I remind the board that it's not supposed to be a discussion during public comment? It's supposed to be public comment, and these items are not agendized, so we're not supposed to engage in discussion.
Mr. President, I'd be happy to meet with, tomorrow, or if they're available. I would next week, but I'm out of town. If there's something that Carrie and I can do to sit down and see if we're missing something. And have that open dialogue, if that's something you're board questions. I'll let you know, when Okay, I'll get a hold of you. Put the time together, does that work for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Gibbons. Mr. Gibbons, come on.
Nobody ever called me Mr. Gibbons. He's been going for 14 years. Thank you very much. Mr. President, board, staff, public, good evening. What I have here, I do a lot of reading. People produce a lot of documents that state things, and this issue that I'm going to share with you is the agenda of March 9th. And getting down to the closed session item 12. I don't know who these hangers belong to, but there was discussion with RE 3107H and 3111K Airport Drive. And then down to, before it gets to the next item, you reported out there was no action by the board. And I'm gonna think that not just the agenda we look at, but when you folks actually put government code section 549568, it's not for regular meeting. Somebody may need to do a little quality control. It's not something that's part of my presentation, but I noticed a little change. My question is, there's no reportable action. But I think maybe internally, you guys might wanna take a look and see if there was any action taken on those hangers in the period right after the meeting. There's maybe a disconnect. You may have different people putting notices out or delivering information to people. But if you're reporting there's no action, I'm gonna take your word that you took no action. Or you, and that includes directly. So you guys could do a little investigation on anything that came up after that meeting relative specifically to the hangar the meeting was about. I think you're gonna find there's probably some issues. And I'm gonna give you a chance to work on it yourself. I got enough investigative work to do, but I get paid for it, and I enjoy doing it. And if there's anything I can do to help you with it, there's a lot of people out there that have hangars that are spending time hauling furniture to dumpsters and doing a lot of things to try to comply with something that they don't even understand. And those are the kind of things I've never seen before, never heard of before. And I want to see some kind of flatline stuff happening because I'm having a couple of hangars with a couple of airplanes in it. I want to bring one airplane over here and get back to flying.
Thanks, Tom.
But everything you write, everything you do, I'll be looking at it. But this could be very, very serious if it was in the action taken. Help me with it.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item number 7, authorization for the general manager to apply for the Small Community Air Service Development Program grant.
Mr. President, your board has approved in the past the same grant program, which is part of our strategy for applying for supporting air service development. And we have our consultant from Mead Hunt, Trina here, and she'll explain to you what we're proposing and asking them today.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me time to speak today on this topic. I wish I could be in person. It's been a very quick decision to try to move forward with this, and I look forward to being in person in May. So May 25th, I'll be there, and hopefully we can speak more in depth on some of the other air service topics. But for today, I wanted to focus on that Small Community Air Service Development Program grant. And Carrie, do you have the presentation? I can't see if it's up.
I do. You won't be able to see it. Just let me know when to go to the next slide.
Hey, next
Yeah.
slide 2. Thank you for everyone's patience with this. So first, I wanted to talk about incentives. So, I've been consulting on airport and air service for over 20 years now. And from the very beginning, incentives have always been a piece of one of the factors of air service development. And it's always been an issue on how to fund them. So most new service, even today, will require new incentives, more so today than before. And those incentives typically include marketing. That's a given. We want to make sure that service is successful when it comes in, fee waivers, and then a revenue guarantee. And all of that's just to offset the airline's risk. Now, I want to clarify that there's no amount of incentives that will actually guarantee service. There is a lot of money out there, especially post-pandemic. A lot of communities have come up with money. There's CARES Act funding that people have appropriated. And there's also resource constraints. So we have pilot shortage, we have crew shortage. Across the board, it's been a difficult time and there's a lot of money. Now, with that, to be competitive and be in the market to get service, we need to have a revenue guarantee. And we've used that, a revenue guarantee in the past for other service. In this case, the revenue guarantee amounts have been increasing. And so what we want to do is find a way to help supplement the district's funding to be able to offer revenue guarantees. And one of those ways is a small community air service program. And I'm going to shorten that to SCASD. That's our acronym for it. And one thing to clarify is that airport revenue cannot be used to fund revenue guarantees. Now, the district is unique in that with the taxation base, you can use that money, but no money direct from the airlines or direct airport operations can be used. So there is that limiting factor, which is why the SCASD was born in 2002. The next slide, please. So a brief overview of the SCASD. So like I mentioned, 2002 is when the program first began, and it was set up to assist small communities with improving air service and specifically funding revenue guarantees that the airport couldn't fund themselves. They're authorized to award up to 40 grants each year, no more than 4 grants per state. And more recently, in the last few years, it's been 1 grant per state. And that's really important to California because you have much more competition with the size of the state and the number of airports. So what are some of the pros and the cons of submitting a grant application? Well, first of all, Santa Maria has successfully used this program in the past, which I'll cover those grant applications on the next slide. But the pros with award, it will supplement the district's money in providing a revenue guarantee to an airline. It's a continued commitment, and I say continued commitment because I believe the district has done everything possible over these years, especially through the pandemic and what happened with United Airlines, to do as much as possible to try to get the air service that we need in the community. This is one more step in continuing to work towards that. The other piece is that you meet almost all of the criteria. There's only one that is about regional consolidation that you wouldn't meet, but reinstatement of hub service is what we'd go after. And the fact that the pandemic directly impacted Santa Maria probably as much as any airport across the US. You are going to have hub service to 3 airports by United Airlines. The pandemic is the only reason that service is not in place today. So that is a strong argument for the grant. And then there's no added cost. So we do have a retainer contract for our consulting services, and we're able to reallocate some of the fees to cover it. So there's absolutely no extra cost for my assistance in doing the grant. Now, some of the cons of submitting, one of the negatives is we were not able to use the grant before. In 2012, we had a grant for eastbound service. That grant was going to be used for United Airlines service when it was supposed to start in June of 20. Now, it's a negative since we weren't able to use those funds as far as the DOT is concerned, but we have a very good reason. So I don't see that as much of an impediment to success on this one. There's a short time frame. So the current order came out March 15th. With Martin starting April 1st, we wanted to wait until he was on board to kind of move forward. And so we have a shortened time frame. Due by May 17th, we need to actually submit by May 12th. Now, on my part, I can handle that part of it, writing, coordinating. On the community's part, it's gathering all of the support letters, and I know that the chamber is already working on that. And then the final thing is just a reminder that award does not guarantee service. So if we get the award, the fortunate part is we would have that money to help incentivize the airline, but it doesn't mean we're going to get the airline service. It's just one more tool in our toolkit. Next slide, please. And here's a brief history of the awards. So the very first year of the award in 2002, we had a grant for supporting existing service, and that was when United was in the market. So the grant was used for marketing program and some studies. We did apply a couple other times where it was not successful, one time in 2004, and then in 2010 and 11, but 12, we finally were awarded the grant. And at that time, they were seeing between 80 to 100 applications for maybe 20 being awarded. So it was very competitive. Competitive now as well, but fewer grants are being submitted. Now in 2012, we had $490,000 for the grant. we were going to match that. And at that time, that's all it took for a revenue guarantee. Now what we're seeing in revenue guarantees for one round trip to a hub is closer to 1.5 million or more. Now, when I say 1.5 million, I believe that that is a starting point for a revenue guarantee. So from this program, what I'm suggesting is that we go for a $1 million grant with a match of $500,000 from the district. We'll also have some other marketing funds and then the fee waivers, but specifically it would support a $1.5 million revenue guarantee. I want to clarify that that is specifically just a starting point. What I would suggest that you commit to with the DOT, it isn't necessarily the final stopping point to what we would offer an airline down the road when negotiations continue. Now, the primary targets that I'm recommending are similar to what we did before: Denver, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City. Those are the hubs that will provide the best connectivity. Now, San Francisco is also a hub that would provide great connectivity, and it has a short stage length, so it's less risk to the airline. However, I understand the community has a little angst over the previous San Francisco service. So while we'd write it to possibly be able to be amended to include San Francisco, it's not what we put in the actual application. So next slide, please. So with that, there's just a few items that we need board approval on. So first would be should we proceed with the submission of a grant? Will the district commit the $500,000 match? And will board members help support the application process by not only providing support letters, but also helping with the outreach? Thank you.
Thank you. Got some questions. There's one guy who's actually running an airline out of here, 121 with a 380 overlay from the DOT. Miles and been part of other support for United and others. What's your view of getting someone who could do a special beginning school here for airline pilots that they could get enrolled? Because as you said, there's a shortage of airline pilots. The airlines have been shrinking. If I'm an airline manager and I got 2 pilots, I put them on the best, highest flight frequency airplane with the most passengers in order to get the most return for those two pilots or in the airplane. So what do you see in the way of the smaller aircraft, the 50, the now surplus 50 and 90 passenger regionals, working under some special arrangement, such as a special arrangement with the FAA to start with a flight school here to train airline pilots, with a senior guy obviously in the cockpit, and getting a special allocation, a waiver, because this seems to be a national problem, waiver to get a special service, special aircraft under special conditions. Do you see any opening for that?
Well, I absolutely support any efforts to try to increase the number of pilots. As far as having a direct avenue for commercial air service in the community, the problem is primarily the time frame. So you may have a pilot training program, but we're still talking a lot of pilot hours before they're actually flying. And I've been part of several communities that have had some of the same ideas. And unfortunately, the airlines just say that's still not enough because of the training period and that. Now, we have been talking with SkyWest Airlines. So SkyWest is trying to get approval for SkyWest Charter. And that is going to be, as you said, they're taking their 50-seat aircraft and reducing to 30-seat. And it's a whole different program that unfortunately the Pilots Association has come against. And so we're trying to support that to see if there's a way for service like you're talking about to start. That's definitely something that is in the works and by SkyWest Charter.
Second question, have you seen any flexibility? Used to be just 121, that's it. That was a 119 transition to 121, and that's it. But now we had some experience with Mokulele who had it scheduled 135. And that didn't work out too well because of the interconnections they had at LAX. Their interconnections with Alaska Airlines just simply didn't work out very well. But do you see any possibility with any of the regulatory authorities that you work with in using a or on demand 135 operation that can link with one of the major air carriers and code share? Any of movement in that way?
Yeah, and I should have clarified, actually, SkyWest Charter is talking about operating as a Part 135. So that is exactly what they're trying to consider to use their 50-seat regional jets. Now, they're also acknowledging that there would be fairly high subsidies and ongoing subsidies to be able to make it work, because they just can't charge a high enough fare to be able to make a profit on service like that when they reduce the seat capacity and such. There was initially going to be a code share with United, but because of ALPA having the Airline Pilots Association having such stringent coming against the SkyWest Charter operation, United has pulled back from that. So right now they're still waiting for DOT approval, but hopefully that can move forward for situations like you're speaking of. And we are in conversation with SkyWest on that. In fact, I will say SkyWest Charter has already provided a letter of support for our grant application.
So a little bit of light in the darkness. Okay, thank you.
So I make a motion that we authorize this.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Trina.
Thank you, Trina.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in May.
Likewise. Moving on to item number 8, authorization for the president and secretary to execute the contract security service agreement between the district and Bomar Security.
I'll make a motion to approve.
How much was that?
It's a 3-year contract, approximately 92,000 a year for the first 2 years and still over 96,000 the third year.
And how many people are gonna be out here at the airport with that?
There's a breakdown in the contract. Top of your head.
I don't know off the top of my head how many people, but the tasks vary from mobile patrol, what's the other? Emergency call out and the regular standing patrol. So the contract has that all broken out and how many hours we need for that each month. So we went out, we did an RFP for this. We had 2 bidders come back for us. Bomar, who is our existing service, and Quest, who we met at the Chamber Expo. These were the low bidders. They came back at 92,000 again for the first 2 years, 96 for the third. They do have an option. They have 2 year options at the end to extend their contract out to 5. Quest came back at 202,000 for the first 2 years, and then maybe 220 something for the third year. So they were, Bomar was very clearly the low bidder.
So the numbers are based on an average number of standing guard hours required per month, approximately 143 hours per month. Mobile patrol, 120 hours per month. Average total number of coverage hours standing and mobile per year should be 3,156 hours per year. And then there's a breakdown in there, the hourly charges based on the nature of the call out, whether it's a weekend or holiday.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 9, authorization for the award of the re-roof Hangar Row 3001 contract to Pacific Builders and Roofing Inc. And authorization for the president and secretary to execute the contract between the district and Pacific Builders and Roofing Inc. For the re-roof Hangar Row 3001, subject to district council's review of insurance and bonds.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this was another item we went out to bid for. We had this Hangar Road 3001 Airport Drive. The roof has been in disrepair for some time. We've been trying to get this contract on the books, unfortunately due to, shortages in supply for, this product and contractors who are able to do it, and the rain obviously pushed us back. We finally have, all of our bids in place. We opened them last Thursday, and Pacific Builders came back as the low bidder, again by far, from the other three that put in bids for this project. And we do recommend you approve this contract.
I'm happy to see some roofs starting to get fixed. A lot of them have had this for a long time. I make a motion to be approved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item number 10, authorization for the general manager to approve a purchase order for runway and taxiway sign panels, with DPE safety.
Yes, Mr. President, we had a for 139 inspection. Our maintenance crews routinely change out panels in any given budget cycle. They will program some of the signs to be changed out. And the lead inspector from the FAA wants us to expedite on the replacement of certain signs, and we'd like your permission to spend the money to do that.
Make a motion that we approve it. I say second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 11, presentation by Tom Woodrow regarding U.S. Customs.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is more of an update than a full-fledged presentation per se, but we are on track at this point for a November launch of U.S. Customs for Santa Maria Airport, be a point of entry into the United States for general aviation. I just want to be clear, got every opportunity, so the word gets out when we do talk to the press and tell them about this occasion, that once again, this is general aviation customs, it's not commercial customs. And some people will still make calls to me and they confuse the two. This is for private jets, charter jets, corporate jets. It's not for Volaris Airlines to fly us to Guadalajara, Mexico City, although that might be something that happens in the future, depending on how well we do with general aviation customs. We had an internal meeting with John Smith, our engineer, Jim Albrecht and his team at Rabat, and I was appreciative to have Martin, our new general manager's input there. And I think Martin, John Smith talked about the quote unquote skinny approach to the repair and the renovation of the facility. And I think that goes kind of against what I understand to be the spirit of the board's direction, which is to make this facility a special place, a comfortable place, one that's upscale and in accordance with the kind of clientele that you'll receive on these corporate jets that come through Santa Maria and clear customs. So it was just nice to hear Martin's opinion. I think you said you thought, Martin, that it would be more like an FBO with the same kind of accommodation. Maybe you could comment on your experience with that, because you've seen these kind of planes come in.
Yeah, I've worked at some places with significant corporate activity, and I mean, I put it this way: imagine the customer, they're coming in from Mexico City, wherever, some international, and they have the means to be on a G650, and when they get off the plane, she'd probably like to have a nice restroom available to her. So it's just something I don't have any numbers. I was just talk is cheap, but it's my opinion, we need to make sure we have an acceptable facility for folks we're the gateway to the community for them.
And I think, as you said, the gateway is the United States. We're welcoming these people into the United States. Also, I wanted to add that along those lines, Rick chimed in saying, hey, we actually need, these are additions, the details that matter, things like a new fresh coat of paint, externally as well as internally, awnings perhaps, improved fixtures in the restroom. And these aren't sexy things, and they don't jack the cost through the roof. Also, there was a discussion about the panels. Some of them are water damaged, but rather than just replace panels and have it look disparate, why not replace all the panels and have it look uniform and clean? So these are the kind of discussions that are taking place. I think they're sensible, and I think when we launch it, that's gonna be very meaningful. I also talked to Val Seiden, who runs the Customs and Border Protection side of this project, and they're funny. They have a list of things for us to do that facility, but there's an unspoken desire for us to have this be comfortable, for the furniture to be nice, for everything to be top notch. They like that. It's a representation of the federal government and of CBP down in Long Beach and LAX in particular. So let's see, also wanted to let you know that we are beginning work on the marketing of this. And it's only a challenge in that it's painstaking, and we have to identify those who use customs flying into Van Nuys and LAX, the areas that were identified as high congestion. And the reason, really the raison d'etre, if you will, for the proposal that I shared with CBP, got approved in Washington DC, the people who signed those letters, the FBOs, the charter jet companies, the private jet companies, the pilots who signed those letters, they simply said that they were looking for a better customs alternative, and they would support this and that they would use it. And so really the marketing is not a scattershot or broad-based marketing. It's really picking up the phone and evangelizing about Santa Maria. The challenge is, I'm being very transparent here, the challenge is I talked to Martin today about this, I've talked to Carrie about as well, is marketing something that doesn't yet exist, right? It's not here yet. So telling them that this is coming, this is going to be great. You need to sign up when we get it officially launched. So, but it still is important to do that work. But also, I just wanted to say, recognize when we do launch this is an accomplishment. I had a lot of support over this effort from Director Basket. I see Teresa here in the audience developed a strong proponent in our craft as they came a lot of those fantastic planes. And Director Adams, you've been really supportive, and I know you're very bullish, both of you, on the airport. So this is really a team effort, and I think it's time to start building some excitement, but to temper that and realize Palm Springs takes in maybe around 300 flights a year to 350, I think. We're not going to get there on day one, okay? It's going to be like a plane slowly taking off in altitude. No matter how good of a marketing effort we do, our efforts need to be consistent, and this board may have to deploy some additional resources, making sure that we tell the general aviation community that we've got a superior alternative to LAX and Van Nuys. If you have any questions, we have.
When did you say it was gonna launch?
November is the, provided once again, CBP can get the carries that they were supply chain on computer technology, right?
Correct.
Was one issue. Another is that make sure we have construction, people come out and actually do the work. So I know we had Carrie, we had a Rick mentioned an issue with the windows. We identified that the leak isn't from the roof, but it's from the ceiling on the windows, and getting Valley Glass out here, look at it, and then them to do the seal job. Not like the old days when you call someone up and they hustle out to do the work. They've got tons of work. So we just have to be a squeaky wheel. Anyway, I think it's exciting, and we'll look forward to a good launch in November.
And your marketing, how's that going? You're marketing months in advance. I'd be marketing now, thinking that it's coming in November.
I've already started to call the people who were proponents of the original proposal, who have indicated that they would use customs. This is Amgen down in, this is a number of charter jet companies, but there's, and I talked to Martin about this actually today, is at really finding those people who are currently coming from Mexico, Canada, the Far East, and are clearing customs in LAX and Van Nuys. That is our target market, is very focused. So I need to add people to that list, people who will use customs in assembly. So.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to item number 12, tuition reimbursement for one staff member.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is another course that Carla has completed in order to get her bachelor's from Embry-Riddle. So we would recommend you approve it. and make a note that you got a name.
I second that. All in favor?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a quick 5-minute break and go into closed session. All right, we exit closed session with no reportable actions. Now we're going to item number 14, director's comments.
Me, comments? Well, I usually have some, so. We occasionally have had some crime at the airport. And for a while, we had some off and on reports given by the town manager of what crime took place. And this sort of been varied for a while. Now we had reports of crime, and I'd just like to have crime reports given as part of the general manager's, activity report. Hopefully, there's no more crime, but what more likely we'll have some. So that's one item. And on the energy, we talked about energy a few times, I think in the RFP, in an RFI, I think we can go through an RFP and get a committee together to start making this energy independent. Hangars, we've had some sagas here on hangars. I've been contacted by a couple of people, and I forwarded on one of them to you, that owner, I need, like to start the series of owner-built hangars. So I'd like to see some action take place on that in the near future and put up a program so people can go build hangars. We need hangars, which is nice. About a year ago, we had signs out, please come, we got empty hangars. Then another thing that we have not done all the time I've been here, this is now in the middle of my 3rd term, we never sat down on a scheduled basis, like every 5 years or 7 years, and looked at our service contracts, whether they're engineering or legal or other things. And so what happens, those have been places where after time, we're probably not getting the best service for that dollar if we don't repeat those once in a while. So I'd like to see a competition for the greatest services come about. Review them, maybe we've got the best there is, but maybe not. So that's my comments for the evening, folks. Glad to be here. Glad to see Martin. I think we're each other. Thank you very much.
And Martin, it's very nice to meet you. I'm really glad and looking forward to working with you. I still am going to be working with Carrie Fenton over here. I'm not going to walk away from not working with her. And we've established a relationship and we're doing well. And I know that the tenant and situation out there with the hangars is just crazy, and you got to grab attention where attention has got to get grabbed. And that brought these people in here, and I think we're going to be able to resolve for them and move on forward. And then it's just going to be a one-on-one basis, but they need to come in and they need to sit in your office, they need to look you in the face, and they need to talk about what's the issues. And that's the only way to get business done. You're doing a wonderful job, and I just wanted to thank you for that. And for Nick, I don't know how to read your last name. I'm not really sure if it's Reed or Red.
First name is.
I know, it's the first thing that,
I think the staff here is doing a wonderful job, and I'm proud to be part of this group. And I know you're all turning them.
Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, sir.
That's about it.
Bart, it's good to see you. Glad you're here. It's everything like the hangar people and the other issues that we have coming on. It's like, nobody takes responsibility for themselves. They're always trying to blame it on somebody else or some other direction. It doesn't matter whether there's hangar tunnels or just anything that's going on anywhere. But, I think if people look and just take responsibility for their own actions, and things look a lot better. I think Kerry is handling things amazingly, especially with, like you were saying, with this hangar tenant that he hasn't taken the time to take responsibility and come in and talk to her. Or sit down face to face, or do whatever. But there's always two sides of the story. You know, we hear one side and the other side here. I tend to support my scout to 100%. You know, so whatever he says is really not gonna make any difference to me. And, that's it. Martin, I'm glad you're here. Thank you.
And I'm back what he just said too.
A motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.